Since Battlefield 2042 turned out like it did, and the world's kind of burning down, everything is very expensive, inflation's going on, school's starting back up again, and I didn't get anything done this summer, so I figured what better way to ignore all of these problems than to put a couple of hundred more hours into Battlefield 4 and pretend like it's 2013 and things are still good and not horrifying. So dust off your cheap stuff, bipod your knives, and put on your nostalgia goggles because I'm doing a whole series of Battlefield 4 tier lists. And we're starting off with guns. So the first category of guns we'll be looking at is of course assault rifles. Starting off, we have the first gun in this category. The first weapon of the assault class, the AK-12, shoots at about 650 rounds a minute, or 750 if you use the 3-round burst. Decently accurate weapon. Very good for medium range engagements. C tier. Next we have the Scar H, one of my favorites from this category. Slightly lower rate of fire, but higher damage per hit. I would say slightly better suited for medium range combat. Works in close quarters too if you can aim for the head. B tier. Then we have the M416, slightly higher rate of fire. Better for closer range engagements. All around a very good assault rifle. B tier. Next weapon is the SAR-21. Low damage per hit, low rate of fire, decently accurate. Recommended for longer range engagements, but I'm personally not a fan because there's just better options, so D tier. The AK-971, E tier. Next, of course, we have the iconic FAMAS. French, F tier. Next on the list we have the AUG A3. Has a decent rate of fire of about 700 rounds a minute. It's a gun that I'm personally a fan of. It's pretty decent at longer ranges, so I'm gonna put this in B tier. Next on the list we have of course the all-American M16A4. Now this gun does not have a fully automatic firing mode. It's only got a 3-round burst. Decent at medium ranges, but since it lacks the full auto capability, I'm gonna put it in C tier. Mostly just because it looks cool. Next we have the CZ805 assault rifle. 700 rounds a minute. 30-round mag. Decently accurate. Not a bad weapon. But nothing really that special about it, so D tier. And next we have the weapon of the Chinese military in the game. The QBC-951. It's pretty much the same damage as most of the other weapons on this list, but with a low rate of fire of about 650 rounds per minute. Decently accurate, you could use that longer ranges I suppose. But I wouldn't recommend it since it is Chinese, so you know you want to avoid any malfunctions. Don't take this weapon. E tier. Next we have the Galil Ace-23. Stands out from amongst the other ones because it has a slightly higher rate of fire, but also it has a larger mag of 36 rounds, or 35 plus 1, whatever. I like it, I think it's good. B tier. Next of course we have an iconic weapon again. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this, if not from Battlefield then other games. It's the FNF 2000. Rate of fire of 850 rounds a minute. Has its own unique built-in scope. Despite its high rate of fire, it is still very accurate at distances, so I would say this is a better choice over the AEK or the FAMAS if you want a high rate of fire weapon. B tier. Next we have the L85A2, which is a British assault rifle. Decent rate of fire, not terribly accurate. E tier. Because it's British. The next on the list we have the AR-160. Not that different from the AUG or the SAR. 700 rounds a minute. Decently accurate. 30 plus 1 rounds. So I'll put it in C tier I think. And next we have possibly my favorite assault rifle. The Bulldog. Shoots at about 700 rounds a minute, but has the same damage per hit as the Scar. Bit harder to control, but if if you can master it, absolutely great. A tier. And then we have the last entry on the assault rifle list. Fairly unusual weapon, and it's the Nikonov AN-94. While its fully automatic mode only shoots about 600 rounds a minute, it has a 2-round burst, which shoots at about 900 rounds a minute. Very fun gun to use. Great if you need a counter against people with DMRs or light machine guns. So if you play any large maps as assault, this is an absolutely must-have. One of my favorites, definitely. A tier. The next category we'll be looking at, of course, is the personal defense weapons of the engineer class. Starting our list off with the MX4. Got a 30-round magazine, a rate of fire of 830 rounds a minute. Decently accurate. It's an alright submachine gun. C tier. PP2000, a gun that I'm sure all Battlefield players are at least somewhat familiar with. Kind of a, I don't want to sound too mean, but a pointless weapon. It's got a rate of fire 650 rounds a minute, a low damage per hit, and of course because it's a submachine gun it doesn't have that much range, so it's not really good for any kind of situation. To be fair, that makes it all the more funny if you manage to like wreck people with this. I like using it for the aforementioned purpose. C tier. UMP45, another weapon I'm sure everybody knows. Slightly higher damage per hit, low rate of fire. It's a decent weapon. If you're like a tank driver, you need a decent sidearm if you need to jump out. Also, it looks kind of cool. I would put it in C tier as well. Next we have another somewhat unusual weapon, the CBJ MS. It's, I believe, a Swedish weapon. It's got this weird cylindrical magazine at the bottom of it. Got a rate of fire of 700 rounds a minute, and it's got way more range than all the other ones. Kinda makes it useful if you're a tank driver again. I will put it in a B tier. Next we have another somewhat strange weapon. It's the PDWR, unlike all the ones we just looked. This is not a submachine gun. Rate of fire of 600 rounds a minute, shoots a 5.56. Got a 25 round mag, it's got decent range. But personally I haven't really found a good use for it. Also it kind of looks dumb. So I'll compromise and put it in C tier. Next we have another submachine gun for those people that aren't just satisfied with killing their enemies but need to saw them in half. We have the CZ 3A1. 9mm with an impressive rate of fire of about 1000 rounds a minute. 30 round mag. Doesn't work too well at long ranges, as it turns out. Unless you like use burst fire, which I guess is an option, but you might as well take a carbine, honestly. No, I suppose you could say that about all of these. Bit of submachine gun, and kind of a cool one. I'll put it in... No, actually I'll put it in B tier, I think. It is that destructive, really. It deserves it. And next we have the submachine gun of the Chinese military, the JS2, as all Chinese weapons, kind of weird looking. High rate of fire at about 900 rounds a minute, 9mm. It's a decent weapon, but again, there are better options. Also it's Chinese, so it's gonna blow up in your face. E tier. And next, a weapon that needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce it anyways. The P90 shoots the 5.7 by 28mm. Famously used by the Secret Service. High rate of fire at about 900 rounds a minute. A huge mag capacity at 50 rounds plus 1. A weapon that I'm sure pretty much everybody is familiar with at this point. Either from video games or movies or whatever else. It looks futuristic. It's really cool. I want one. A tier. And next we have the UMP9, which, well, you might have guessed it by its name, is just a UMP. That's chambered in 9mm. Slightly higher rate of fire, slightly bigger mag capacity because it shoots a smaller round. It's a decent submachine gun. I've certainly used it a lot as a backup when I've been a tank gunner or a driver. I would put it in C tier, I think. And then we have another weapon that I don't really need to introduce that much. The AS-Val shoots a big old bullet, the 9x39mm. It's a subsonic, armor-piercing round. High rate of fire, 900 rounds a minute. But kind of a small mag at 20 rounds plus 1. But I like it. I'm sure everybody else does too. It's cool. A tier. Then we have another somewhat iconic weapon. Not to the degree of the P90, I don't think. Or the ASL. But it's cool nonetheless, and I would say probably my favorite submachine gun. Not just this game, but just like in general. Has a very high rate of fire of 950 rounds a minute. Also shoots a small armor-piercing bullet, much like the P90. A weapon originally designed to kill communists. Also has a mag of 40 rounds plus 1 in the chamber. A very good all-around submachine gun. I like it. I don't just like it, I love it. S tier. Next on the list we have the SR2, which is a Russian submachine gun. Again, high rate of fire, 900 rounds a minute. Usually goes without saying for submachine guns. That's kind of what they do. Shoots a 9mm, but a different 9mm, I think a 9x21. I don't really get it. It's, I mean, a decent gun, but yeah, so many better options that I'm gonna have to put it in D tier. Next we have one of the DLC submachine guns, which is the MPX. Shoots a 40 Smith & Wesson, which is kind of unusual. It's a decent rate of fire at about 850 rounds a minute. I find it to be not terribly accurate. It's kind of a cool looking gun, so you know, I'll put it in D tier, I guess. And then we have the last entry on the personal defense weapon list, the Grotza 4, which is also another strange weapon. As you can tell by just looking at it. It's a personal defense weapon chambered in the same round as the ASL, but with a slightly lower rate of fire of 700 rounds a minute. Same mag capacity of 20 plus 1. It's slightly easy to control, I suppose. So I'll put it in D tier, I think it has its place. And then we come to the LMGs of the support class. Starting off with the first one, the U100 Mark V, which is entirely pointless. It's a light machine gun with a rate of fire of 590 RPM, chambered in 5.56, and a magazine of 30 plus 1. Why does it exist? I don't know. Presumably just to annoy new players. Its only purpose is to unlock the next one, and that's it. F tier. Next on the list is what I consider to be a fairly underrated light machine gun. It is a belt-fed Chinese gun called the Type 88. Shoots at about 700 rounds a minute. Has an ammo capacity of 200. Fairly accurate even while using it as you're standing up. I would put it in B tier. Next on the list we have the LSAT belt-fed light machine gun. It's fairly controllable. Rate of fire of 700 rounds a minute, but I think it falls a bit short of the Type 88 just because it has a lower capacity of 100. Which is why we'll put it in C tier. Then we have another gun that I'm sure most of Battlefield players are familiar with. Possibly the most Russian sounding machine gun there is. The PKP Pechenig. Now I tried to pronounce it correctly. If I didn't, well, it's Russian, so you know, whatever. Go learn a real language. Shoots a hefty round, the 7.62x54R, and it fires it at 600 rounds a minute. A fairly good machine gun, as long as you keep the bipod down, as you can probably figure from the caliber. And I don't know, not much else to say. Ammo capacity of 100 rounds. It's decent. If you need a machine gun for long ranges, then it's a solid choice. The QBB95. Personally not a huge fan of this gun. It's a magazine-fed light machine gun. Capacity of 75 plus 1. Rate of fire of 600 rounds a minute. Sorry, 650. And yeah, not that great, honestly. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage per hit considering its low rate of fire. Plus it's Chinese, so E tier. It's not quite F tier, I don't think. Then we have the medium machine gun, I believe, of the US military. Gun I'm sure most of you are also familiar with. It's the M240 Bravo, chamber in 7.62x51. Slightly higher rate of fire than the Pechenig at 650 rounds a minute, but about the same damage per hit. Makes it very good for long distance engagements. I've certainly taken out a whole bunch of snipers with this, which they found very annoying, so you know, if you have pesky campers to deal with, then yeah, just have a bipod and a ACOG scope on this, well, you'll be good to go. A tier. Then we have the MG4, which I think is a German machine gun, at least judging by the name. Shoots about 800 rounds a minute, ammo capacity of 200. Not much else to say. Don't shoot it while standing up. I'll put it in C tier. It's alright. Then we have another weapon that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. The M249 SAW, or Squad Automatic Weapon. Basically the same stats as the MG4. So I'll put it in C tier as well. Then we have the RPK-12, which is not a terribly good machine gun, at least compared to other entries on the list. It's basically just an extended AK-12, longer barrel, bigger magazine, rate of fire of 600 rounds a minute, and about the same damage per hit, so that makes it kind of, I don't want to say bad, but not good. So I'll just put it in D tier, I think. Next we have another iconic American machine gun from the Vietnam War. It's the M60. The Pig, I'm sure everybody knows it. Rate of fire of about 560 rounds a minute, shoots a 308, high damage per hit, looks cool, has cool iron sights. It's cool, so you know what? A tier. And next we have by far my favorite of the machine guns. Is the RPK, shoots the same round as the AK-47, which is the 7.62x39, high damage per hit, rate of fire of about 600 rounds a minute, very non-obstructive iron sights, which is one of the many things I like about this gun. But the main thing is that in Battlefield 4 this is a laser gun. This gun is so ridiculously accurate. I've won fights with so many snipers with this. One of my most used weapons in the whole game, and thus it will go to S tier. Then we have another one of my favorites, which is the AWS, 800 rounds a minute, 5.56. Has a magazine that looks like testicles, which hold about 100 rounds, I think. Faster to reload, obviously, than all the belt feds, so put it in A tier. And then we have the last light machine gun on the list, which is the British L86A2, obviously based on the L85 assault rifle. Kinda same deal as with the RPK, it's just a bigger L85. Got a magazine capacity of 30+1, shoots a 5.56, shoots 700 rounds a minute. Decently accurate, but I'm not too fond of it, so I'm just gonna put it in D tier. And then we move on to the snipers of the Recon class. Starting off, of course, with the default CS-LR4, which is a Chinese bolt-action rifle. Chambered in 7.62x51. Decent starting weapon, magazine capacity of 5+1. I would put it in C tier. Then we have another iconic Vietnam era weapon, the M40A5. Once again, chambered in 7.62x51. One of my favorite rifles in the game, definitely. Magazine capacity of 5+1. All in all, a very cool rifle, a very good looking rifle. I would put it B tier just because it looks better and it's not Chinese. Then we have one of my favorites, the Scout Elite, which you might be very confused by, because it's a bolt-action rifle chambered in 5.56. I mean, beyond a certain distance it doesn't even kill from one headshot, so why do I like it so much? Precisely because of that reason. It's a shit weapon. It's a toy, which makes it all the more fun to shoot tryhards with. B tier. Then we have another classic. I'm sure not just Battlefield players are familiar with this, but if you've played a shooter game in like the last 20 years, you probably know this weapon. It's the SV98, Russian bolt action. Shoots a 7.62x54R, not much else to say. Looks cool, I've used it. Yeah, let's put it in B tier, it's about the same as the M40. Next we have the JNG90, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it has the highest muzzle velocity of any of the snipers, which gives it a slight advantage over the other ones. Chambered in 7.62x51, which means the damage is the same, but it actually has a slightly higher magazine capacity of 10+1. So you know what, I'm gonna put this in A tier. Then here we have one of my favorites, the 338 Recon. As you might have guessed for the name, chambered in the 338 Lapua Magnum. Kind of a small magazine capacity of 5+1, but you know, it's a bullpup bolt action sniper. It looks cool, and it makes a funny sound when you shoot it. So I'm gonna put it in B tier. Then we have another sniper that I'm sure all Battlefield players know. It's the M98 Bravo, Also chambered in the 338, but magazine holds slightly more rounds at 10+1. Very good for long range sniping. Looks cool. What else do you really need? A tier. Then we have a fairly unusual looking sniper. Kind of looks like it's just a collection of random tubes. But some of you may recognize this as the sniper used by Mark Wahlberg in a shooter, I believe. And it's actually the highest caliber rifle in the whole game, I think, besides the 50 cal obviously, but out of the loadout weapons. Possibly my most used sniper. This is the one that I got my longest range kill as of yet, which I think was 1145 meters in a Paracel storm, shooting from the aircraft carrier. I like it. What else do you need to say? Big bullet, shoots good. Then we have another Chinese sniper rifle, which is the FYJS, which I'm pretty sure it's just the 5.8mm version of the CS, as in the CS LR4, not the CS5 obviously. But yeah, lower damage per hit, but I think it's got a slightly faster round. Anyways, D tier. Then we have a bit of a throwback from Battlefield Bad Company 2. If you remember this gun from that game, it absolutely destroyed. Chamber in 338, big round, looks cool. I think I'm going to put it in A tier. Then we have the L96A1, though for some reason in the game it's called the L115. I don't know why, maybe it's some kind of variant. I don't know, I'm not a gun expert, obviously. I think it shoots a 338 or 7.62 by 50, I can't remember. One of those two. Yeah, shoots a big round. Has a magazine capacity of 10+1. It's a decent gun, I've used it a lot. So I would probably put it in B tier. Just cause it looks slightly less cool than the Gol Magnum and the M98. Then we have the only semi-automatic sniper in this category. It's the SR338, and well, you can probably guess what caliber it is from the name. Magazine capacity of 10+1. It's like the DMRs, except you can put a sniper scope on it. Yeah, you know, if you need to annoy somebody at a distance, then it's a decent gun to take. C tier. And then we have the last sniper on the list, which is an unusual one. It's the CS5. Has the lowest muzzle velocity of any sniper in the game at 400 meters a second. But it's also the fastest firing bolt action in the game. Comes with a suppressor by default, which slows the projectile down to 300 meters per second. So if you wanna be a sneaky, somewhat medium range sniper, then give it a try. Magazine capacity of 10+1. Looks kinda neat, I suppose. Not really something I enjoy using, because of the aforementioned slowness of the bullet, so I'm gonna put this in D tier, I think. Alright, let's do some of the weapons that are available for all classes, starting off with the DMRs. F tier. And then we come to the carbines. Starting off, we have the AK-5C, 700 rounds a minute, shoots a 5.56. 30+1 rounds in the mag. It's a decent starting weapon, nothing really too special, but you know, at least it's not terrible like the support class starting weapon. So you know what, we'll award it the C tier. Then we have the ACWR, one of the high RPM weapons usually favored by tryhards. But you know what, I've actually used this myself a fair bit. You know, it's a better alternative to the AEK in case, you know, you wanna have a better chance of hitting stuff at a distance. Also, it looks better in my opinion, so yeah, we'll put it also in C tier, I think. Next we have the SIG SG553. Yeah, I'm not really a huge fan. Rate of fire of 830 rounds per minute. Mag capacity of 30+1. Shoots a 5.56. Not terribly accurate, but I guess, you know, it's kind of cute. It's kind of a small weapon. Then we have the AKU-12. Low rate of fire, low damage per hit. Comes with a 3-round burst at 750 rounds a minute. Decently accurate, nothing too special really. I don't use it much myself, so I'm gonna slap it in the D tier. Then we have the A91, which I think is a Russian weapon. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm assuming because it shoots the 5.45. And it shoots it at 800 rounds a minute with a mag capacity of 30+1. Yeah, close quarters weapon. It's alright. I'll put it in C tier. Then we have the Galil Ace 52. Kind of an unusual carbine. It's really more of a battle rifle than a carbine, I would think. Mag capacity of 25+1. Shoots a 7.62x51 at 650 rounds a minute. But you know what, it's a decent medium range rifle. So you know what, I'm gonna put it in B tier because I kinda like it. Then we have the G36C, which I guess is a carbine version of the G36. I mean, that's probably what the C stands for, I would think. Shoots a 5.56, 30+1 rounds in the mag, 650 rounds a minute. I mean, it's a G36. But yeah, looks cool. Low rate of fire though, so I'm gonna have to put it in D tier. Then of course we have another iconic American weapon, the M4 carbine. And yes, it only has a 3-round burst, much like its full-length counterpart in the assault rifle category. Yeah, shoots a 5.56, I'm sure you'll know. 30 rounds in the mag. 800 RPM burst. There you go. Decently accurate. Very good choice for like large maps if you put a ACOG on it or something. I've used it quite a lot, so I'm gonna put it in B tier. Then we have another Galil, the Ace 21, which, as I'm sure you might have guessed, is the carbine version. Carbine? I don't know. Version of the Ace 23 assault rifle. Much like its full-size counterpart. Rate of fire of 770 RPM. Shoots a 5.56 and has a mag capacity of 35+1. Since it is smaller, it is a bit harder to control, but you know, it's manageable. I think it's kinda neat. D tier. Then we have another carbine version of a assault rifle. It's the Chinese Type 95B1. Not much to say about this one. 650 rounds a minute, 30+1 in the mag. Shoots a 5.8x42. It's a Chinese carbine, you get it. Which is why it's going to F tier actually. It's not very good. Then we have the carbine of choice for all the tryhards out there. You know, the real sweaty boys. It's the MTR 21 bullpup carbine. Rate of fire of 900 rounds a minute. Shoots a 5.56, 30+1 in the mag. There you go. Somewhat more easier to control, I think, than the AEK. Not that I've used either of them that much. Well, I mean, I've used this a couple of times, so... Not a terrible weapon, but, you know, E tier, because waste of ammo. Then we have another weird Soviet weapon. It's the Grotza 1, which is the, well, I guess the carbine version of the OTS 14 series, I think. Well, anyways, shoots a 7.62x39, which is the AK round. Rate of fire of 725 and 30+1 rounds in the mag. Actually, I think that's the highest rate of fire of any of the higher damage per hit carbines or assault rifles. So yeah, I've used this one quite a bit. It's got decent iron sights. The high rate of fire makes it pretty good even in close quarters. But you know, I'm a fan, so I'm gonna put it in A tier. And then we of course come to the last one. Well, not the last one on the list. Actually, I just wanted to save it for last because it is the best one, objectively. Yeah, so not really a carbine. I know. But that's where it is located. It's in the carbine category. One of my favorite weapons in the game. It's a bow. It's the Phantom bow. Comes with 4 types ammunition. Broadheads for those sweet one-shot kills. Bullet points for longer distance but less damage. Explosive tipped arrows for fun and not really much else. And of course the poison arrows if you wanna make everybody hate you.
I'd avoid using the poison arrows. Pro tip.
Which, I mean, if you do, fair enough. It's kind of funny. So yeah, obviously S tier. And then at long last we come to one of my favorite categories. Not just in this game. Not just in games. But in just the world. Who doesn't like a shotgun? Well, I'll tell you who, most Battlefield players. They don't like getting killed by shotguns. And that is what makes it so funny. But yeah, starting off the list with the QBS-09. It's a semi-automatic shotgun. Holds 6 rounds in the tube. Not a huge fan, but I think it's the fastest firing out of all the semi-automatics, so has its purpose, I guess. And then we have another Vietnam era gun that's still around today, that I don't think needs any introduction. It's the 870. What more do you wanna know? Everybody knows what the 870 is. A tier. Then we have another very well-known shotgun. Not as well obviously as the 870, but yeah, it's kind of a classic. It's the Benelli M1014. Semi-automatic shotgun. Tube-fed. Holds 8 rounds. I used this a lot in Battlefield 3, not 4 so much, because there were better options. But it's still a good gun. B tier. Then we have the Hawk 12G, which I believe is based on the 870, but as you can see it is magazine fed and pump action, which is unusual. But yeah, it holds 5 rounds in the mag plus 1 in the chamber. It's a fairly good gun. I like to use it with the slugs. It's like a kind of like a shotgun sniper kind of deal, if you put a scope on it. I would put it in C tier. And yet another iconic shotgun. It's the Saiga 12K. Everybody knows it. It's in a lot of games. It's the AK shotgun. Yeah, semi-automatic. 8 rounds in the mag, 1 in the chamber. Need I say more? B tier. Spaz 12. Everybody knows what the Spaz 12 is. If you played games in the early 2000s, you're probably more used to seeing this gun with the stock on the top of it, folded. I think I will put it in A tier, just cause it's legendary. Then we have a lesser known gun, and kind of unusual one. It's the UTS-15. It's a pump action with 2 tubes, which can hold a total of 14 rounds, 7 in each. Of course this makes reloading it much slower, but in return you get more tube capacity. But it's a decent shotgun all around, though the pump and the reload are slightly slower than the other ones. So I think I'll just put it in C tier with the Hawk. Then we have my not the most used weapon, but the weapon I have the most kills with by far. Yeah, it's an AK-12 shotgun. It's pretty much the same as the Saiga except with a bigger mag. Holds 10 rounds in the mag, plus 1 in the chamber. Yeah, looks like an AK-12. There's nothing really more to say about it. If you want something to spam with, especially if you use frags, you know. If you're an asshole like me and you play Locker or Metro and you wanna use frags, then you know, this is the shotgun to go with. Just a pro tip, S tier. And then of course we have the last gun on the shotgun list. I'm sure I don't need to introduce it that much. It's a gun that goes by many names. In Battlefield it's called the Dayo 12. Semi-automatic, not tube or magazine fed. It's got a weird revolving cylinder thing. Very slow to reload, but it does look cool. And it's funny to kill people with it just because it's so terrible. A tier. Alright, last category. Pistols. Let's go. So the starting pistol is, I think, Sieg's P226. Well, you know, nothing too surprising here. 9mm, 15 round mag. You can spam this gun decently fast. Not a bad starting pistol, so I'm gonna put it in C tier. The Bird IM9. Service rifle. Service pistol of the US military. Pretty much the same as P226, slightly better looking in my opinion. Yeah, 9mm handgun, 15 rounds the mag, 1 in the chamber, blah blah blah. But since it's about the same as the SIG, we'll put it here in C tier. Then we have a Chinese handgun, the QSC 92, chambered in some weird Chinese caliber, I think 5.8 by 21. And you can spam it incredibly fast, and it's got a 20 round magazine. I kind of like it. Not gonna put it in A tier though, because, you know, it's still Chinese. Then we have a Russian 9mm. Sure, everybody who's played Battlefields from Bad Company 2 to Battlefield 4 at least will know this. Yeah, 17 rounds in the mag, 1 in the chamber, B tier. Then the next weapon on the list, not really a pistol, but I guess this category really is sidearms, which is what I should have said, but I'm not gonna go back and change it because I'm lazy. So just, I don't know, deal with it. Anyways, tiny pump action. Who doesn't love a tiny pump action? 12 gauge, holds 2 in the tube, 1 in the chamber. Yeah. Unfortunately you can't change the ammo, which is a big disappointment, at least for me. Putting frags in this thing would have been hilarious. But anyway, one of my most used sidearms, because it's funny. A tier. Not quite A. It's the Glock 18. And can you guess which group of players uses this? It's the tryhards. Of course it is. Yeah, holds 17 rounds the mag, 1 in the chamber. Fully automatic. Shoots 900 rounds a minute. Basically a tiny submachine gun in your pocket. So of course, if you ever see somebody, you know, teabagging while shooting the AEK and they run out of ammo, chances are this is what they're gonna pull out. But yeah, I suppose, you know, it's understandable if you like use a sniper and you need like a close quarters backup weapon. I won't shit on it too much. It's a decent weapon. C tier. Next we have the FN57, as you may have guessed. Shoots the same 5.7mm round as the P90, so it is a bit faster than the other rounds, which gives it a bit more range, but then again it has lower damage per hit. So you gotta really spam this gun hard if you wanna kill somebody. Which I suppose it's okay for, so you know, C tier. Then we have another icon that I don't really need to explain that much. The Colt M1911. It's been around for over 100 years. Chambered of course in the 45 ACP. Not 2 world wars, cause they don't make a 40CX. But yeah, decent pistol. Small magazine capacity. B tier, just because, you know, it looks good. It's the M93R. It's the M9 but with 2 round burst. That's pretty much it. I think it's kind of a cool weapon. I like using it. Then we have the CC75, which is a pistol chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson, I think. Yeah, holds 11 rounds in the mag, 1 in the chamber. Somewhat slower rate of fire than the smaller caliber pistols. Not really a fan of it, so I'm gonna put it in D tier. Then of course, we have a big iron. I don't need to explain it. It's a 44 Magnum. Fucking A tier, right away. No question about it. Then we have the H&K Compact 45, chambered in 45, pretty much the same as the 1911 except holds 10 rounds in the mag. I like to use this gun with a suppressor, there's nothing else to say about it. C tier. Then we have another revolver, this one chambered in 357, it's the MP412 Rex, which is I think a Russian revolver, I might be wrong. Anyways, 6-shooter, kind of neat. B tier. Then we have one of the DLC guns, again, the SW40, much like the MP412, it's a 357 revolver, though this one fires out of the bottom cylinder, making it look kind of weird. I don't know, it's kind of a cool looking weapon. Not my favorite when it comes to the revolvers, so I'm gonna put it in D tier. Then we have the Mateba Unica 6, it's a semi-automatic 357 revolver. It's, I mean, it's like alright, I suppose. But the only time I've like actively used it is when I used it to unlock something else on this list, which we'll get to. But you know, I'll put it in C tier, because it looks cool. Then we have another one that's not really a pistol, but a lever action rifle. It's the only one of its kind in the whole game. It's the Mare's Leg, chambered in 44 Magnum. It was pretty good early on in the game, but then they nerfed it because, I don't know, tryhards complained about it, because you were just able to have this pocket sniper. So now it does less damage than the 44 revolver, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you think about it. You know, from a real world perspective as well as a gameplay one. Like, it's lever action, it fires slower. Why would it have a lower damage than the revolver? I don't get it. People complained, and dies in their usual fashion, bent the knee, so unfortunately I'm gonna have to give it only an 8 here instead of S. And then of course we come to the last one on the list. Probably my favorite gun in the game. We all know what it is. It's a Desert Eagle. So this one is chambered in 44 instead of 50 AE, which is kind of disappointing, but you know, it still fucks. And a lot of people will say don't spam this gun, that it's a precision tool, but I don't think that's necessarily true. I think if you're strong enough, you can spam this gun all you want. Anyways, high caliber, high damage, tryhards hate it. 8 rounds in the mag, 1 in the chamber. I love it. S tier. But that about wraps up my Battlefield 4 gun tier list. If you wanna see more Battlefield 4 content, then let me know. I'd definitely be happy to do a tier list of all the weapons and gadgets and vehicles in the game. And if you disagreed with any of my opinions, then you're clearly an AEK user and you deserve no respect. Nice. Oh man, it took me so fucking long to make this video. Recording footage for all the fucking guns in the game, almost. Then editing, that didn't take that long, but I just procrastinated for like 2 months. Cause I just didn't want to do it. No, I just like saying things. I don't like doing actual work. I guess that's why I'm mainly a streamer. No one's even gonna care about this fucking video. Why would I make it? Who the hell's watching Battlefield 4 videos in fucking 2022? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm too good at this whole YouTube thing. Hey, look, he killed me. Thank God he had that emblem, otherwise I wouldn't have known. Otherwise I would have remained in abject confusion for the rest of my life. What just happened to me? Why did I suddenly become stationary? Gay gun to use. No, gay gun you use. And now's the most important part of Battlefield, coming up with a good comeback. You see, that's what this game's really about. You know, it's not the teamwork or the good times with the friends, it's when you make somebody really upset, so they call you gay. Room nab you cav. Number 3. Nice. I wasn't even trying, I just wanted some footage to end the video with. Why is it always that when I'm like trying my hardest, I get absolutely destroyed, but then when I'm like, oh yeah, I don't really care, I'll just grab a shotgun and go acquire some footage for my YouTube video. Kill streaks all around, everybody's getting mad at you and calling you gay. You on the VRP. Yee-hoo. Shut the fuck up. Noise. I want your mom. That's the duality of man. Alright, let's drop a tactical meme school in the chat. There you go.